Hey everybody, this is Keith here of Euphoria Pictures. Welcome back to my channel. Right, so for this video it's going to be a top 10. I haven't done one of these in a long time, and this only just came to me a couple of nights ago. I was wondering if I could actually put together a top 10 of my most underwhelming 4K transfers when it comes to movie franchises. And I thought it was going to be a lot harder to put this video together, but funny enough, at least 6 of them came to me like that. It came very, very quickly, where the others I kind of had to hunt them down. But I'm very happy, very satisfied with this top 10. Now bear in mind folks, this is just my opinion. You know, everyone's equipment is different, so your chances are you're going to have different viewing experiences. But for some of these movies, I think there's no denying that there is issues with a lot of these movies in these franchises. And yeah, I just thought it'd be a fun top 10 to put together, and just to see what you are going to think of them. Now bear in mind folks, we are talking about transfers here. I am not attacking the movies themselves. The movies, actually a lot of the movies are fantastic. It is the 4K transfers we are talking about here, and that's it. So just bear in mind as well when you are watching this video. So right, let's not waste any time. Let's get on to it. Here is my top 10 most underwhelming movie franchises. Right, so on to number 10. So we are going to start with the Harry Potter 4K collection. Now, I only just started watching these very recently because I actually bought the Hogwarts Legacy game, and I just wanted to get myself familiar with the franchise, so I just started watching these. So the first thing I noticed is inconsistency. That's the best word I can use for this franchise on 4K. One movie can look absolutely spectacular, where the second one could just look unbelievably underwhelming. This movie franchise can be considerably dark, and I thought especially with someone like myself that has a fantastic OLED television, you think movies like this would lend well to OLED, but unfortunately the blacks don't hit the heights that I'm used to with certain movies out there on 4K. Very, very inconsistent. Grain structure as well during this franchise can fluctuate from fine to heavy, and sometimes to not at all. Not saying that there is DNR being used, but there is times where it does look like some of the grain can be frozen on certain movies. And that's it. I think that's the best word, inconsistency. I have seen so much better when it comes to 4K transfers, and I found this franchise to be quite lacking, if I'm completely honest. But having said that, it's not all bad news folks. A lot of the movies in this set are quite brilliant on 4K. It's just not the best you will ever see, but when they are bad, they're quite bad as well, so bear that in mind. So that is my number 10 pick. That is Harry Potter. Right, so on to number 9, and we have got the David Gordon Green Halloween Trilogy. Very inconsistent, these 3 movies as well on 4K. The 2018 Halloween is one of them movies, when you knock it on, you start asking yourself, am I actually watching a 4K transfer here or a Blu-ray? There is little to no difference when it comes to picture quality on that 4K disc. Halloween Kills, I have to say, looks beautiful. It looks quite amazing actually when you do watch it. Just look at some of the crimson reds that you're going to see on the blood in that movie. It's a marked improvement over that Blu-ray. And then unfortunately we got Halloween Ends that shifts right back to the way Halloween looks on 4K, where again you're kind of watching it and going, is this really any better than the Blu-ray itself? Now, not taking anything away from the picture quality, they do look amazing, but again, when you stack them up against the Blu-rays, particularly 2018 and Halloween Ends, there is little to no difference, and that's including the Dolby Vision HDR colours on that as well. So yes, I found it to be very underwhelming for 2 of these movies in this franchise, where Halloween Kills, yeah, it does look great, but yeah, inconsistent again. So that is my number 9 pick. That is the David Gordon Green Halloween movies. Right, so at number 8, and this is a little bit of a cheat we have here, and it is the Cornetto Trilogy. But look, it is seen as a trilogy, and I felt it was only right to put it in this top 10. And it's a shame that I have to, because I'm such a fan of Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and they deserve so much better than what we got here when it comes to these 4K transfers. Shaun of the Dead, look, it's not the worst looking picture you will ever see. I just found the colour palette to be a little on the lifeless side, and it is definitely lacking the fine detail that we've come to expect when it comes to 4K transfers. Hot Fuzz is a mess. Hot Fuzz is an absolute mess, and it breaks my heart because, again, I'm such a fan of that movie. The entire image is flat. The grain structure has been completely wiped away. Little to no life. The HDR colours, Dolby Vision colours, add nothing when it comes to colour. It is just a flat looking lifeless image. And World's End, unfortunately, it's one of them movies again, much like the Halloween movies prior to this one. They just kind of, it's one of those things where you knock it on and you're questioning whether you are looking at a 4K disc or a Blu-ray. Just not much of an upgrade there. Maybe a slight enhancement when it comes to colour because of the HDR, but other than that, not much else. So yeah, that is my number 8 pick. That is the Cornetto Trilogy. Right, so on to number 7, and you can't do a top 10 like this and not include Marvel. So yes, we have the Thor Trilogy, and I'm just talking about this box set, so Love and Thunder is not going to be featured here. Thor, the original Thor that is, has a poor showing when it comes to physical media. I remember when it came out in 3D, it had one of the worst conversions you will ever see on that format, and unfortunately it has carried on over to the 4K transfer as well. The movie is scrubbed clean, absolutely no grain to be seen, and whenever you do see some grain, unfortunately it's frozen. And there is a lot of it to be seen in this movie. It is horribly, horribly distracting. And as soon as you see it, it takes you right out of the movie. I don't know why they insist on using this horrible DNR, especially when it freezes the grain like it does in this movie. It is just downright atrocious to look at. The Dark World is a marked improvement over Thor, but again, it does have issues again with DNR. And again, you will see a lot of that frozen grain as well. And not just that, but the HDR implementation on The Dark World has made the movie considerably darker. Now, the movie was always dark anyway, but it's even more so now, to the point that it is very hard to make out certain scenes. Not all the time during the movie, but certain scenes. So yes, again, more issues with the Thor Dark World. And then Ragnarok, yeah, fair enough, it is a good looking 4K disc. It was a very colourful movie, and if you implement HDR right, you would get a nice upgrade. And they did implement HDR quite nicely on Thor Ragnarok. But again, it is only the colour we're talking about here. Anything else when it comes to, like, you know, fine detail, even the shadow detail, black levels, they're just fairly, very similar to what you will see on the Blu-ray. So yeah, a very, very poor showing when it comes to this trilogy. And yeah, that is my number 7 pick. Right, so on to number 6 we go, and it's a bit of a shame, this one. We have got the Jack Ryan 4K collection. And just like the Harry Potter collection, each movie is very inconsistent when it comes to the 4K transfers. Now, The Hunt for Red October, some would say that maybe the movie just doesn't lend all that well to 4K because it's such a dark movie, but you need to check out what the Dolby Vision has done to this movie on 4K. If you thought it was dark before, you should check it out now. It is ludicrous how dark it is. Almost to the point that there is absolutely no fine detail to be seen. I have never seen a movie look this dark before, and it's borderline unwatchable at times, and it's a shame when you consider the movie itself. I'm happy to report that Patriot Games actually looks quite brilliant, but then on to Clear and Present Danger. That Dolby Vision again has basically sucked the life out of the picture. The colours, there's just nothing there. A very drab looking picture. Yeah, again, considerably darker as well than we've come to expect for the Clear and Present Danger. And unfortunately, again, the grain structure is horribly inconsistent. One minute it can look quite light, other times it can look incredibly heavy, and sometimes it's just not there at all. So very, very inconsistent. The Sum of All Fears doesn't look too bad either. Again, I wouldn't call it what you call a drastic leap over that Blu-ray. There is some subtle differences there. But again, it's not going to blow the socks off you. It just has a little bit added more fine detail, a little bit more colour to the picture, as you come to expect with most 4K movies out there. And then, of course, you got Jack Ryan, which actually looks beautiful. It really, really does. Again, we're talking about inconsistency, unfortunately, when it comes to these movies. And here is another example of it. So yes, that is my number 6 pick, the Jack Ryan collection. Right, so on to number 5 we go, and if there's ever a case of a franchise that has been literally rushed onto 4K, it is going to be these movies here. And we have got the G.I. Joe collection. I am not kidding you, folks. Do not waste your time with these movies on 4K. They look identical to the Blu-rays. The Dolby Vision slightly enhances the colours, Now again, you'd be hard pressed to see it. Maybe the blacks look a little bit inkier, but again, you really have to go looking for it. Both movies look identical. You can see that there is absolutely no work gone into these whatsoever. You get no drastic upgrade on audio as well. It's all 5.1 DTS, no DTS-X or Dolby Atmos. Just a boring set of movies, and no imagination at all went into this. They just rushed it out, and what you get is just some boring looking 4K discs where I promise you will walk away from it going, what was the point? And that's my number 5 pick, the G.I. Joe movies. Horrible. Right, so on to number 4 we go, and it is this franchise that inspired this top 10, and we have got the Jurassic Park trilogy. And you could almost put the Jurassic World in there as well. There's just very underwhelming 4K transfers. So I was watching Jurassic World Dominion the other night, and that's what kind of put this idea in my head of doing this top 10. I was kind of watching Dominion, and I was kind of saying to myself, is there really a difference here when it comes to picture quality over the Blu-ray? I just never felt like I was watching a 4K transfer. Not taking anything away from Dominion, it actually does look quite brilliant. But again, you do question whether it does look any better than the Blu-ray. And then it got me thinking of the original Jurassic Park trilogy. And what a shit show we got with this trilogy. Jurassic Park, wow. What a disappointment that movie is on 4K. Unfortunately, the dreaded DNR was used a lot during this movie. And yes, granted, the HDR colours do enhance the picture considerably over the Blu-ray, and it does add a little bit of life to the picture. But there is no denying that the movie looks smoothed out, and again, it's all down to that DNR. Just look at the very first scene where you actually see the first dinosaur movie in this. The first dinosaur in this movie. Look at the textures on the dinosaur. It looks very murky, very pasty, and there's no detail whatsoever there. So yes, unfortunately we got DNR for Jurassic Park. The Lost World is a marked improvement. Actually, The Lost World looks quite amazing. And then on to Jurassic Park 3, and it is just a flat, lifeless looking image. And the DNR wasn't used as heavily on Jurassic Park 3, especially when you consider it over Jurassic Park. I just felt that the HDR colours looked very drab looking. The picture just looked incredibly soft. And again, this is what we're talking about, inconsistency again. How can you get Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3 looking so poor, but yet you can get The Lost World to look quite amazing? It's such a shame, it really, really is. So yes, unfortunately, that is my number 4 pick. That is the Jurassic World trilogy, or Jurassic Park trilogy. Right, so on to number 3 we go, and surprise, surprise, we have got the Iron Man trilogy. Now, I know exactly what Disney were trying to do with this trilogy. The first 2 movies were shot on film, while the third movie was shot digitally. And I think they were trying to pair up the 2 movies perfectly with the third one. But unfortunately, by doing so, they used DNR and they scrubbed away every bit of grain that could be seen on them first 2 movies. Whatever filmic look they had, it has been scrubbed away, gone, removed. And what you've been left with is a very soft and waxy looking transfer. And it is borderline unwatchable at times. It is horrible to look at. Now, if they were trying to accomplish these movies to look similar to the third one, well done, you have accomplished it. But my God, they are terrible to look at. The third one does look quite decent, but again, it's not what you call a drastic leap over that Blu-ray. It's just a horrible looking trilogy on 4K, and even the Dolby Atmos, they just lack any punch, any kind of atmosphere. And of course, just like every other Disney release that has Atmos, you have to crank up your volume quite considerably to get kind of the best out of it. But again, it's not saying a whole lot with the Atmos on these. It's just a shit showing, unfortunately. And I cannot recommend picking these movies up on 4K. I think you're going to be massively disappointed. So there we go. That is my number 3 pick. It is the Iron Man trilogy. Right, so on to number 2, and I know this is going to upset a lot of people out there, and it's upset me as well. I don't want to have to put it in this top 10, but unfortunately I have to because it had such a poor showing on 4K. And we have got the Star Wars collection. Now, I was actually going to single out the just the original trilogy, but there was some poor showings all through this collection. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. The Force Awakens actually looks breathtaking at times, and I thought the Revenge of the Sith looked actually quite beautiful as well. But the original trilogy, the amount of DNR that was used, particularly on Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The grain structure is just frozen, and it is there to be seen. Now, the DNR doesn't destroy the image completely, but it has heavily affected, particularly them two movies that I'm talking about. A New Hope. The grain is frozen. There's no denying it. You will see a lot of scenes where the grain is frozen, even though there is times where the picture does look beautiful. But when them scenes do happen, it just takes you completely out of the movie. But the Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi is just an absolute shit show. It is just poor 4K transfers on both of them movies. Thankfully, the HDR has been implemented quite well on the trilogy. But again, it is just not going to help this trilogy, unfortunately, because there's no denying, there's no getting away from the DNR that has been used on that trilogy. It just looks horrible. And just check out The Phantom Menace as well. Holy shit, I've never seen such a murky looking, look at the textures in that movie. I've never seen texture work like that on a 4K transfer, where it just looks just murky, pasty looking. It is just horrible to look at. And then of course you got the likes of The Last Jedi and The Rise of the Skywalker, which look no better than the Blu-rays themselves. The Blu-rays were beautiful, bear that in mind as well, but again, it's just not much there when it comes to the 4K discs. So yes, unfortunately, that is my number 2 pick. Star Wars, it just got a terrible showing when it comes to the 4K transfers, and I'm hoping someday these will get revisited and give us the transfers that these movies desperately need. So yeah, until then, that is going to be my number 2 pick. Right, so here we go, number 1. So before I actually show you my number 1 pick, just bear in mind everything that I've shown in this top 10, there could be some redeeming qualities, whether it is the HDR that might subtly enhance the picture quality, or even the sound on some of these movies could actually rescue them as well. So unfortunately for my number 1 pick, there is absolutely nothing positive I can say about it. It is just a poor showing. So surprise, surprise, my number 1 pick, and I have featured this in a couple of videos, is the Fallen Trilogy. Now, we have spoken about DNR a lot during this video, but I've never seen it being as aggressively used as you would see on Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen. Just check out the opening sequence to the White House, where you first see the initial attack on the White House, check out the greenery outside. It looks like someone just got a paintbrush and just went over it. It looked like an oil painting. It's just shocking. You cannot see a single individual blade of grass. It is horrible to look at. It is mannequins fighting mannequins in these movies. Just everything looks waxy. It just has a huge waxy appearance. No fine detail whatsoever. The HDR colours are too vibrant, way overly vibrant. It is the most ridiculous thing you will ever see on 4K. And the only reason to why I still have this release is to show people how bad things can get. Particularly when DNR is being overly aggressively used. I'm not kidding you, folks. You will see nothing like this. There's nothing out there that comes close to these movies on 4K and how bad they look. Now look, you don't have to take my word for everything that I've shown in this top 10. Again, I've said at the start of this video, everyone's equipment is going to be different. But if you are going to take my word on one thing, please let it be this trilogy. Do not waste your money on it. You are getting nothing from it. I think I had Olympus Has Fallen on for 20 minutes. I had to knock it off and go back to the Blu-ray. It is shocking. There is no way that companies should be allowed to bring this out. This kind of quality. It is downright... It's just downright horrible to look at. So there you go, folks. That is my number 1 pick. And again, please stay away from it. So there you have it, folks. That is my top 10. So as per usual, if you did like what you see here, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you could do, leave a comment down below. And if you have seen some of these movies on 4K, share your thoughts on them as well. And yeah, I hope to see you all again real soon with my next video. Until then, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.